Hi, pal, and welcome to season 2 of I've Got Your Back, the podcast. I am so excited that this season is going to be about entrepreneurship. So, if you are an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur and you're curious about how to be one, what it means, how do you embody the mindset, or how do you create ways to become an entrepreneur, and any lessons there are in being an entrepreneur, then this season is for you. Speak to you soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to I've Got Your Back, the podcast. We are in season 2, which is all about entrepreneurship, and this is episode 5. I am so excited that a good pal of mine who is an entrepreneur and one of my fave people in the world, because she makes me laugh so much, is Louise Skipper. And the reason I invited Louise on is we've actually been in business together with Arbonne for I think it's just under 14 years for you, which I cannot believe. It's crazy, or maybe 13 years or like 13 and a half. So I've known Louise a long time. I have witnessed her journey from full-time employee to full-time entrepreneur, and in that space become a wife, become a mum 3 times. And it's just extraordinary. And I really wanted to capture Louise's story so that you can hear about it and hear about where she came from, how it started, where did that entrepreneurial spirit begin, how does she continue to sort of cultivate that entrepreneurial spirit, and just lots of tips in between. And especially for those of you that's listening that are mums, which I know there's a lot of you, I really believe this one's for you, because to see what Louise does and commit to every single day being a full-time entrepreneur as well as a full-time mum to 3 beautiful children is just incredible. So I want to capture that today. Hi, Louise.
Hi.
How are you? And the fact that you're even in the car, I think, says it all.
We don't actually have a house. We sold our house a few weeks ago. So
I love it.
parents midweek and then my in-laws at the weekend. So the only quiet place, no joke, that I could possibly do this is inside my car.
Inside the car. Great. I love it. You're making it work. So Louise, can you just share with us your sort of background? Because obviously everyone can hear you've got a Scottish accent. So tell us where you grew up. What was your upbringing like in terms of going to school, education? Did you always have a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit? Were you a bit left of field? I'm just curious to know your background and more about what that was like growing up for you.
So yeah, my name's Louise. I just turned 38. And I am from Perth, Scotland, living back here now. But my husband and I and the kids had been living down in Dunfermline, but we've sold our house now. So yeah, born and raised in Scotland, and went to normal school. I wasn't homeschooled or anything like that. I didn't go to a private school. Just went to a normal, nice school, and same with high school. And I have parents who have had traditional jobs, and I was kind of raised in the environment, very blessed that I'd come home from school, my parents would do our homework with us, they'd help us prepare for exams, and the narrative was very much you do your homework to do well in exams, to grow up and to get a job where you can be a contributor, right? Because my parents are contributors, to in every way. So that was how I was raised. So really, really blessed that I had parents that took an interest in my education, but by no means were they pushy helicopter parents,
Yeah.
Parents I was scared to take my school report home to. But at the same time, there was no cartoons till we'd done our homework.
Yeah.
That kind of.
That's so cool. And did you find so did you go to study in terms of university? What did you end up, did you do any of that?
Yeah, I did. So I did a degree in marketing management, really looking at the economic side of things, which plays a big part of my life now. I didn't necessarily think that at the time at university that would have a big, because my major was marketing, but I've kind of gone into more probably financy, like in terms of what my interests are in.
Mm-hmm.
Did that and came out of university and went straight into a graduate program with a really, really big brand. And then from there, they gave me my first job. From there, I got my first, big girl job.
Yeah, big girl job.
And that's really where I got my first distaste for big girl jobs and
Yeah.
the world of the 9 to 5 or the 5 till 9. So everything up until that point was very, very normal and reflective of someone who was like middle class, brought up,
Mm-hmm.
went to uni, went down that path.
Yeah. And what was it? What was the distaste? The distaste, that's what you said. What was it about being in that? So you were a full-time employee, you'd done a graduate program, which is incredible, by the way, because I know it's really hard to get into grad programs, but even back then, but even more so now. What was it that you were like, probably this isn't for me? Like, what was it?
I think it was, well, number one, like the company that I was working in, I look back now and I realize so many of the things that my boss, my manager at the time did were like, he wasn't a good manager and he wasn't a good boss. And if I was going back into that environment now, I would have stuck up for myself. But at that time, when you're 24, you feel like you've just got to be such a yes person because your career depends on it and your job depends on it, and you're really not certain of what your rights are. You feel like you're you can go at any minute. So you've got on one side of you've got, a manager that isn't creating a very nice environment where you're always like, he would always kind of throw me under the bus for stuff. And I honestly feel like he deliberately made me feel like I was up to my neck, surviving in terms of workload, because he either wanted to like, bring me on and make me someone that was like gonna kind of learn quickly, or he was just a bit of a bully, actually. So on one side, I'm in this environment and I just don't feel taken care of at all. I feel that I'm the new girl. I'm being like just felt out of my depth. There was always like they wanted more, they were disappointed. Like I could never quite do things well enough or fast enough. There was something I couldn't quite put my finger on with him. But on the other side, I was very much like, well, I'm lucky to be here, and I if I'm out of a job, that's not good. So I kind of had these two forces keeping me in somewhere that ultimately I wasn't cut out for it. It wasn't cut out for me, and once the initial sheen wore off of, you get this company car, and I was traveling quite a lot with work. I was looking after their sponsorships. Once all of that wore off, plus the fact that, you go from being quite broke or living on a student loan to suddenly there's like, 1,500 to £2,000 landing in your bank account every month. You're like rich, you feel rich.
Yeah, cha-ching.
That had kind of worn off.
Yeah.
Like this is like, life is just not as fun. So there was, bad management. There was a job that was ultimately excruciatingly boring, like excruciatingly boring. And there was then just that demand of like getting up in the morning, absolutely knackered, driving back. And I sound so snowflake generation when I talk about this, like the world. But I think the thing that made me exhausted was how utterly mind-numbing the role was.
Yeah.
Much didn't suit me, and how much I felt quite nervous at work in terms of a wee bit bullied and not able to step and really ask for help.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think you covered off quite a lot of what people experience every day in some organizations. I mean, not all, but a lot of organizations, and I certainly felt like you as well at times in my career, where you are being bullied and you're younger, so you don't have as much confidence, and you're just the yes person. So I was even just thinking about what you said when you were growing up with your mum and your dad. You were very nurtured, you weren't you weren't like told you had to get certain grades and there was that pressure, but you were nurtured. So it must have been such a shock to the system when you've come from that nurtured environment and then you go into this job and then you're not being nurtured. And I think what you're saying is there was unfulfillment, there was no nurturing. And for you, there was no sort of, yeah, apart from the money, there was no sort of incentive to get up each day and go
No,
and work in that environment.
no. I remember, and I was thinking about this recently so vividly. So I'm actually sitting inside my nana's house just now. So my mum and dad live at number 23. My nana lived at number 29. So she was
Mm.
very close, and I know you were with your grandparents.
Yeah.
And I remember actually, because I'd moved home when I first started my job. I'd moved out of my flat in Edinburgh about 6 months to a year in, just because I'm like, just, don't need to be in Edinburgh anymore. And I remember early on in my job thinking that I had a tummy bug that wouldn't go away.
Mm.
I had no idea it was crippling anxiety. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had an upset tummy, right? And I
Mm.
remember night after night sitting in my mum and dad's bed. And I think dad moved into my bed. And I remember my mum on one side and my nana on the other. I must have asked my nana to come and
Oh.
sleep. But I remember them sitting up with me and it was like 3, 4 in the morning. And I was
Mm.
and saying, I
Yeah.
just don't feel well, I just feel sick, I just feel sick. And I
Yeah.
look back now, it was all completely psychological,
Yeah.
complete, and just that overwhelming anxiety, being exhausted. And I just think, oh, it's so sad. Like,
Yeah.
so sad. Like, I wish I could go back and be like, Louise, don't be scared of that boss. You're going to have a
Mm-hmm.
bright future.
Mm.
Tummy bug.
I'm glad you touched on that as well, because a lot of people, we know this now, being in the wellness industry for the last 14 years, but like people don't realize when they have stuff going on in their body, it's a sign that something's going on in their life. Like there's some sort of psychological thing going on that ultimately creates some sort of discomfort in your body because you're not comfortable in the
Yeah.
situation you're in. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people I see or tell me all the time they've got headaches like every day, they've got upset stomachs, they've got all these health issues every single day. And fundamentally, it's because you're going into an environment where, one, you said that you don't feel safe. Two,
Mm.
you don't feel as if you're fulfilled or sometimes being valued. And the work that you're doing is actually not that great. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of people miss that. They miss the connection. And obviously you've seen it now looking back, but the connection of that discomfort in your body is related to something going on for you in your life, generally work.
Aiming at you. I mean, if you think of even the word disease, it's like dis-ease.
Yeah.
Everything is at like dis-ease. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Yeah, disease. So let's move on a bit. So thank you for sharing that and being so open. I would love to know. So we obviously met 14 years ago and we've become pals and business partners through Arbonne, which has been amazing and it's been a wild ride. I just want to ask you, very wild ride. I want to ask you why, obviously you've sort of described the situation you were in at that time, because I think Arbonne came not long after that. Like, what was it for you about Arbonne? Because that was you really stepping out of that full-time employee mentality and taking an action to create a side business or another business alongside your full-time job, because that's what you decided at the time. Why did you decide to do that at that time? And I think you probably answered it a little bit, but tell us again. And what was it about Arbonne that you were like, yes, like this just is a good thing for me to do?
Like hope. It offered me hope.
Mm.
I remember
Yeah.
so vividly meeting for a coffee about it, just to hear about it.
Mm.
No real idea. No idea walking into that coffee. I really thought I was just going to be, hear about a bit about the brand, and I was there to borrow products. But
Yeah.
I asked the girls, I was like, wait a minute, you're consultants for this company, like what's involved in that? And they told me what was involved in it and the compensation plan and the possibilities. And it's like such a before Arbonne, after Arbonne time moment in my life, because I remember driving back up to Perth on the M80 and feeling like, oh, thank you, God.
Yeah.
To prayer. This is my lifeline. This is my thing. This is my hope. And you've
Mm.
really given me a way out. And it was like the clouds parted.
Mm.
I felt so excited, so excited. And yes, it's a side business for, I would say, for most when they start. But for me, the minute I heard about it, I thought, this is my ticket out, and this is my ticket to the life that I want. And
Mm.
I'm feeling.
Yeah. Oh my God, I just get goosebumps all over my body when you said they just,
Having the life that I want now. Like I look at every
yeah.
life, and we're so bad at stopping and just looking around and realizing how good we have it. But when I say
Mm.
it out loud that the minute I heard about Arbonne, it gave me hope, and
Mm.
that hope was it come to fruition. It did
Yeah.
what I wanted to do, and it still continues to. And I just thank God every single day. I
Yeah.
actually don't every single day. I don't know why I said that. I forget to a lot of the time. If I remembered to, I would thank God every single day for the fact that yeah, I got to hear about
Yeah. Yeah,
opportunity.
absolutely. And what would you say, I mean, we talk about this often in Arbonne. It's almost like having your Arbonne business is like a degree in entrepreneurship. Like, and especially for you that's done it for over a decade, right? It's huge, like huge commitment and huge achievement to stay in the business for over a decade and
Yeah.
go through all the peaks and troughs. Is just extraordinary. So for you, like, what do you feel you've learned in over a decade with
So
Arbonne?
gosh, I am 1,000,000% a different person. And that's not so much to do with Arbonne. Arbonne,
Mm,
manufacture, sell,
yeah.
phenomenal, health and wellness products, and I love them. But
Mm-hmm.
the environment that I've got to be in for the last 10 years has changed my life. And
Mm,
I'm a different being.
yeah.
So number one, to be in a company where people have your back, and from day one, they're like, actually, like you're, you're so good at this. Or by the way, do you know
Mm,
your skill set is? Or I can really see this in you.
mm,
An amazing environment to be in. When people pull out the good
mm,
and you begin to see yourself in a different light, your life changes, right?
yeah.
Where you go to work every single day and you were being told you're this, you're that, and the next thing, and you take that on and you think, gosh, just a bit rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
Your words have power, right? What you think,
Mm,
how you perceive yourself is ultimately like who you become, and we know that. But being in that environment in Arbonne where I was around so many people who were just happy, and happiness is contagious, and if you're happy in yourself, then you're not gossipy, you're pulling out the good in others, you're
mm,
seeing your best light, you're telling them. That was just like this breath of fresh air for me. I got to meet people who became my friends, and are still my friends to this day, who were just happy, kind, nice people.
mm-hmm.
And it wasn't toxic positivity, it was a genuine concern and love for others, coupled with a business opportunity that really inspired you to go and read books on business, listen to podcasts,
Mm,
educate yourself about the world outside of your little realm. That brought me on so much. I felt like I had a master's in business and entrepreneurship
yeah.
and stickability and
Mm,
character, and
mm-hmm.
yeah, very, very quickly. And that's obviously, as time's gone on, I've not gone back into the traditional workplace, but I've taken on a lot more, ventures and avenues
Yeah.
that I feel really confident in and really well equipped in, because
Yeah.
Arbonne was a learning ground.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, let's talk about that. So when COVID hit, when the pandemic happened, and I see this in a lot of entrepreneurs, and I saw it in you. You were like, get creative, get innovative, and you started other businesses, you started other income streams.
Yeah,
And I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs did in those 3 years. And we're starting to see the fruition of a
yeah.
lot of those businesses and ideas and creativity. But I would love for you to talk us through, like, what was it when the pandemic hit, what did you decide that you were going to do in those moments? And maybe talk about your businesses as well and what happened.
Yeah. So obviously when the pandemic hit, I remember being really scared like everyone else. So number one, the concept of a lockdown was really freaky. That it's like, it was freaking me out, right? Being a prisoner in your own home. And then I went through the fear of, oh my goodness, like what's going to happen to my business? Like I've not diversified myself. What's going to happen to my business? And actually, we look back and I realized Arbonne thrived, right? That was like thriving because all of the elements of the things that we're in, right? So online shopping, independent businesses, B corporations, people looking for hustles, people looking for cleaner things, health and wellness, all of those buzzwords that are underpin Arbonne are through the roof. So that my fears were unfounded. But in that moment you think, have I left myself vulnerable having one income stream? So I'm, I'm married, my husband, has a career. He works in the NHS, so that was unaffected, busier than ever. So that was my first thought, that was like, right, what could I be doing? Because Arbonne's not a hard thing to stick at, right? I get handsomely paid for what I do. So you'd have to be a bit of an idiot to not stick around at something like that. Alternative that's better. So it's easy to stick at, but I did wonder if I'd left myself a little bit non-diversified. So I did a few things. I started a franchise. I became a franchise owner, a licensee of a company called Dunfermline Gloves. We manufacture single-use gloves for dental, service, medical, you name it. Still do that to this day. Love it. Really, really made the role my own. Directly with the founder, and there's actually the structure of the company somewhat changed, and it's like the two of us. So really love that. And again, I realized through that although I love working with people, I love the very kind of transactional element of business, and I've learned so much about like import export and and that other side, the more traditional side, like manufacturing and certifications. And if anything, it's really highlighted like how good we have it in Arbonne.
Totally right.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. So that was one thing. And I actually started that with the inheritance that my nana left me. And I did that deliberately because that's my insurance policy of I stick at that until I leave a legacy, right? Until her money creates money, leaves a legacy, does an impact in the world. So that's I also at that time went on a bit of a financial education journey and started investing quite seriously.
Wow. And tell us more, because you've got so much knowledge in this space. Not saying that you're an expert or I'm an expert, but I heard you speak about this recently and with so much passion. Just tell us more about investing, because I have started to dabble in it as well. And I've noticed after doing a financial education program as well, it's funny how we were doing the same things at the same time. I realized through that not many women have the confidence to back themselves when it comes to investing. And I would love for you to share like more, just for people like women listening.
I think as well, so like my mum always says, oh, if anything happened to your dad, I wouldn't know what to do. And my mum works full time. She's got her own income and she's got her own money. But my dad is very savvy with money as well. And invests and again, this was only something he did like when we were a lot older. But the point is that she doesn't have anything to do with like any bills, like any investments. Like he'll literally be like, fill this form in and sign it. It's going in here. Like, so I'm always like, Mom, like get some financial ownership so that you never have to be in your life, right? So thankfully he's like told me, my brother's like where everything is, but financial illiteracy amongst females is like an epidemic. So that was number one. Became aware of that, and I was like, I'll never ever want that to be me. Like I never ever ever want to be in the vulnerable position where my husband is the primary breadwinner or equal breadwinner, right? But I, if God forbid anything happened to him, would feel 1 second of panic about any of
Yeah.
our. So
Yeah.
really, since day one in our marriage, I've been like, it suits our skill set. Like, I am the person that kind of takes care of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened is I ended up during lockdown reading a book called The Millionaire Next Door. Fascinating, fascinating book. Really old book. I think 1993 it was written.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an in-depth, the biggest ever study done on America's millionaires, the people with the highest net worth. And it's just a fascinating deep dive into like who these people are. They are not the people driving Range Rovers, right? They are not the people with the mansions in Beverly Hills. They are the average Joes next door that have over the years shunned the concept of keeping up with the Joneses,
Yeah.
buying crap they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't even like,
Yeah.
having a low consumption life coupled with what is now a high, 7 or 8 figure net worth.
Yeah.
And I became so intrigued by these group of like unassuming millionaire next door types, people contributing, giving back, philanthropists paying for things in cash. And as the world started to change and we became, I think, as we went through COVID, we became very aware, like you and I, we're not here to talk about COVID or all that, but you and I sing from the same hymn sheet, right?
Yeah.
When we know and believe that so many things have been uncovered in terms of like who the powers are in the world, like what their agendas are, what they would have us all do. And I was like, like I'll not be owned by the banks, right? Money will not own me. I will own money. And that, I was like, I am going hard at this investment thing. So I just got like everything we had in control, and I'm not gonna like bore people, but I like paid off every bit of debt. I've absolutely had credit card debt in my life, like consumer debt. I've had put things on credit cards and not paid them off and done all of that. But through financial education, I just began to like join communities and read blogs, and became, I guess, well versed in stuff enough to step forward and start putting our money into different asset classes, so diversify ourselves. So every asset class that you can think of, apart from property, we actually literally don't even have a house right now. Like we have now.
It's amazing.
And I love that, and it's really, really addictive. And I feel weird. I don't know. I feel a bit weird talking about it, but it's like, because I'm really mindful that there's like a cost of living crisis. But I also think there's I was watching a documentary last night on Channel 4 called Addicted to Drip. And there's this saying apparently on TikTok when someone's like dripping in it, they look wealthy, right? But it's about this look at how something like 49% of 16 to 34-year-olds are in debt buying things to make them look good. And I'm like, what? Like, that to me is just insanity.
Yeah.
So I just think now more than ever, it's so important that people take control of their lives. Like, I'm 38. If we think that we're living on the state pension, we are living in another world. The state pension was brought in 1880 when the average life expectancy was 54. People retired at 44. So that pot they live on for a decade, right? People are living 100. That's going to continue to grow up. Our children's generation are going to live past 100. So now we're living on a pot filled in part by a country that's dead broke, that is never going to last us, right? So particularly because as inflation increases, the purchasing power of our pound nosedives. So for the average person that's financially literate, right, that isn't investing, that isn't putting away, that keeps their money in a bank account and that gives them back like 2%, they are literally by the day getting poorer, because the purchasing power of their pound is going down against inflation. So inflation's now at what, 9 or 10%? Unless you're getting that back on your money, you're getting poorer. And that's why it's so important to be so aware of, first of all, like maxing out your tax wrappers every year, maxing out your ISAs, investing into your pensions, looking at like what's going on in the world market, like not just not just having things that you're comfortable with. Like, I know people that are like, oh, I've got gold, and I'm like, that's fine, that's a bit of a safe haven, but have you got every other single asset class?
Yeah.
And really, this is like so accessible for the average person. And I really honestly think, if the average person was to sit down and look at their outgoings, they can really start to cut corners. Like, I know it sounds like your house. Downsize.
Yeah.
Downsize your house. Don't have to drive a German car. Get a banger, go from A to B. You don't need to be ordering takeaways. You're smoking, you're drinking, all of this. I honestly believe that 9 times out of 10, people can make sacrifices in order to free up the extra, because the extra, when invested, will give you returns.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is another income stream. Once you get more of the extra and invest it, return on that.
Yeah.
Stream, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love all that. And it's so inspiring, Louise, honestly, just listening to you speak about this so passionately. And you've obviously invested a lot of time and effort into educating yourself. I'm going to get that book now because I have to absolutely read it.
So good.
I just love how you say it, though. It's like the average Joe next door who is just very shrewd, very humble, very like just keeping everything simple, not getting involved in consumerism. And I just thoroughly agree with so much of what you said. And I feel as if I've gone on that journey myself the last 3 years. Like when I moved back from Australia, I was like, the clothes, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like slowly but surely over the last few years, I've just decluttered, minimalized, got rid of excess costs that I don't need, just so many things. And I just think we have all of that was in our control. Like, and there's so much education out there that's for free. Like that book would probably cost on Audible, it cost a couple of pounds, but if you got the book, it would be a couple of pounds, whatever it is, and it could give you so much value and just start you off on a path of learning about how could you take even like £50 a month. Like it doesn't need to be something huge or dramatic. I love what you're saying about those small things, those small investments and small changes over time.
The eighth wonder of the world is the power of compound, right?
Yeah. So just explain that for people that don't know it, like the power of compound.
The power of compound means that if you compound interest, so if you invest like £100, right, and you're getting paid a return on it, then the next time you get paid that return, you're getting it paid on the principal plus what you've already made. So it's bowling on. And the power of compound interest over time is insane, and that is how millionaires are made. So if you start investing when you're 19, by the time it's like genuinely quite young, like in your 40s, just that putting away and that compounding over time turns into 7 figures. It's insane. So go and look at that. The other thing I'll say is, nobody needs a financial investor. Nobody should be giving anybody a percentage of anything they make to tell them where to invest it. Everything I've learned is for free. You'll see people out there that are like, our fee is like 1%. Tell you what, like 1% doesn't sound a lot. 1% can quickly run into a lot if over time your portfolio is whatever. So that'd be the thing. Do everything for free. Use an investment platform like Hargreaves Lansdowne is one that is what I personally use. It's a complete platform. Don't invest in managed funds. Invest in tracker funds, which are completely free, and track,
track your investments.
All of the stuff that I've done has been 100% free. I just want to reiterate that there's no courses. I have there's no financial guru telling me to do anything. There are books that I picked up at the library for free, blogs I've read for free, and it starts to be really, really fun. And again, my mindset's completely changed from wanting, and there's nothing wrong with nice things, but being a magpie and going into Zara and getting all the things, loving that, to actually what can I tuck away, what can I sell, what can I get cheaper than I'm currently getting, and what can I do with the extra, and who needs extra, right? As you give away 10%, so watching that extra, you want the extra to be more because you want to be a person that
Gives back.
So yeah, and
I love it, Louise. It's so good.
It's like it's free and it's available for absolutely everyone. And
yeah,
I really do think it starts with, can you free up £20 a month? Can you free up £30 a month? Like, where can that start to go? And it's amazing what that can do over time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. You've inspired me with a few actions, so I'm going to be doing a few things after this. Just to talk about, I want to talk about it because I did say there's a lot of mums that listen to this podcast, and you've just rounded off all of these incredible things that you're doing. So you've got Arbonne, you're doing investment, you've got another business that's a franchise. You also, I would like to bring two things actually. You also are a wife and a mum to 3 beautiful children. And you're also a woman of faith, massive faith, which I know. So I would just love, so it's like family and faith. So how do you sort of go about your everyday life with running multiple businesses and multiple income streams, as well as being a wife, a mother, and your family, and being a woman of faith? Like, what is it? Like, how do you go about that every day? How do you manage that?
Faith would be the first word. I mean, I feel like death warmed up today because I didn't sleep last. So there's like, when you say it like that, I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing, because in the day to day, you just make the next best decision. Like, day to day, I'm like, often really, really tired, haven't slept, haven't even been in the shower that morning, feeling really angry at my husband or angry at my kids, or, eating crap the night before and my energy levels are low, or, setting a goal for my business and not quite getting it, or, having a bad month in business, or, like a leaking roof. Like, that's just life, right? And I'm a bit of a hustler, and you just have to do what, like, the next most sensible thing, and it's a juggle. So my husband, he's a surgeon, works as a surgeon in NHS, and his rota, it is what it is, right? And we've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a baby who just turned 1. And the wee one, the middle one, and the wee one, apart from 2 days a week for the middle one, they're not in nursery or anything, so I've got them full time. Have childcare in that respect, and it's just a bit of a mishmash. Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing.
Totally.
It's just a bit of a mishmash, and I try my absolute best to say, I get up before them and I start my day, and sometimes I do, and I'm like, this is the woman I want to be. I'm doing my intermittent fasting. I'm like taking my green shots and all the rest of it. But last night, for example, I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning, eating a Kit Kat chunky and looking at holidays in Turkey. I didn't have my walking glasses on, which I normally would, right? One of the legs is falling off them. And I'm like that. And then Nathan WhatsApps me and he's like, quite late. And then this morning, like, I woke up and I felt like death warmed up. So it's just kind of muddle through. But ultimately, I'm a Christian. So my faith in God, it keeps things in perspective, right? I don't sweat anything too much, right? Money is money, it is what it is. A job is a job, it is what it is. The most important things in my life are that my family and friends and loved ones and my kids are happy and healthy, right? I don't sweat the small stuff. We've just been out of this crazy past few years where people deep dive into rabbit holes, and there's so much fear, and Bill Gates is doing this, and the vaccines are doing that, and the government's doing this. And I slipped down those rabbit holes a little bit, but ultimately I'm like, I can't control any of it, right? I say to my wee boy all the time, Joseph, do you know what your one job is to do? You trust God with everything in your life, and your one job is to have fun. That is it. And I feel like as a human, my one job is to just be a decent person and have fun, right? Have fun, and not allow anything to steal my joy, whether that's people or what's going on in the world or anything like that. So my foundation is a foundation of fun, right? And having all that in perspective. And when you've got that in perspective and you're like, okay, if everything else was wiped out, right? If a meteor came and took away, my house and all of this, what is my foundation and what am I standing on and what am I held fast to? And that is my faith, right? That is that God's got everything in control. He loves me. Things are constantly working out for my good. So everything else on top is just quite superfluous and fun and the sprinkles on the cake, right? Because everything that matters is I have.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's where the faith element comes in. And that I would like to think that grace trickles over into just holding it together with my kids. It looks messy, right? Like you yell at your really bad and you feel like you're gonna need therapy, and then the next day you're like but that's
it's something, honestly, Louise, it is extraordinary what you do every day, and
what's the alternative?
You might not think it is, but from an outsider looking in, like, I just see it, and I think it's so important to call it out because it is extraordinary. And my grandpa used to say this a lot, which was, if you don't have your faith, you have nothing.
No, your grandpa, your papa.
My papa. I know, obviously, he was Catholic, but a very, very humble human. That's what he believed. He said that's the number one thing, and exactly how you described it. Like, he was like, everything's working out. It's all fine. It's all good. So I think when you have that bigger belief in knowing, you don't sweat the small stuff like you're doing. And you're like, if it's a mishmash, it's a mishmash. If I'm eating a Kit Kat at like 2 a.m, scrolling turkey holidays, then it's fine. It is what it is. But you're not going to do that like every single night. Do you know what I mean? Just some days it's going to be like that. It's going to be the mishmash.
You need to do it. You just need 10 minutes to yourself. Scroll on your lap. But yeah, I think that's it. And I'm just very grateful for my life. I've got it. I look around and I think, Louise, like, you've got it made. I'm so grateful to what God has done for myself and my family. And I ask him every day, like, God, just give me a strong mindset, give me a healthy body and a healthy mind, give me energy, give me the day, and all the places where I fail, where I'm not a good mom and I'm not a good wife, and I'm just, the human in me. I just, grace just covers that. And I give myself grace for that. And life now, particularly in a business like Arbonne as well, like, we earn commission, and the sky's the limit, which I love, because there's not many opportunities like that for people these days. But you also have to be careful that you don't always want more and more and more. And something that I'm very mindful of is life is now. Like, I'm not happy when. I won't have that, I won't, appreciate this when. Like, this is like right now in this minute talking to Michelle on the phone. This is my life. So I have to just choose to love it in the minute. And it's great aspirations, and it's great to go for the next, best, healthiest version of you. But at the same time, just absolutely loving life where you are at. And I think that comes from a foundation of gratefulness, being content, being at peace, and knowing ultimately what is important.
Yeah. Wow. Well, what a way to finish. That was just incredible. Thank you so much, Louise, for your time. I so appreciate you. I'm so grateful that we are pals and that you were brought into my life, because you have been an absolute joy and are and continue to be an absolute joy. So thank you so much. Thanks everyone for listening. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I so appreciate your time. And as a thank you, and especially for this season, which is all about entrepreneurship, it's so important to look after yourself from a mind, a body, and a spirit point of view. So as a gift, you can download my Yoga Nidra practice from my website. And this is a guided meditation to really regenerate your mind, your body, and your soul. I hope you enjoy, and I'll speak to you soon.